Hello, my name is Alessandra Tanesini and I am a professor of philosophy at Cardiff University. This video is part of the Extended Knowledge Project held at the University of Edinburgh. The Extended Knowledge Project is concerned with how knowledge is extended, so that individual knowledge is externalized and made social. My project is concerned with extended ignorance, and in particular this talk is about amnesia and how the environment is helping individuals and communities to forget. If you wonder, who am I? You might say, I'm Fatima, I'm Julius, I'm Rian, I'm Jim's sister, I'm a devout Muslim, a teacher, Black British, Tunisian, British. All of these are identities, and with identities come values and commitment. But identities are created and strengthened by memories. So if I think of myself as Jim's sister, I might remember many summer holidays spent at the seaside. If I think of myself as Julius, I might remember a football match. If I think of myself as British, I might remember many past events defining the Britishness. Either way, memories help strengthen a sense of belonging. So memories make you who you are. Their purpose is not exclusively or not even primarily a faithful reproduction of the past. Instead, they are useful for the present and the future. And one of the ways in which they are useful is because they strengthen social bonds. It is important to realize that memories are not just representations, ready-made, stored in the brain, and ready for retrieval. There is indeed information encoded in the brain, but this is often sketchy, and what we remember is often very selective. So memories are best thought of as constructed as we go along. They are prompted by cues, and this is one of the reasons why we surround ourselves with mementos. Their role is precisely to trigger memories. So, for instance, an old bracelet or an old photograph. So the cue that triggers the memory will in part determine the content of the memory. But also the context in which the memory was made will contribute to determining how it's stored. So memories are constructed, and they are constructed as being very selective, so that we will remember some things and not others, and some aspects of the things we remember and not other aspects. They're also condensed, so we will have, for instance, gone on holiday at the seaside many times, but we will not remember necessarily every year we went to the seaside. We will have a condensed memory of childhood summers at the seaside. Memory is often done together. So one of the main activities that couples do is remember together. Interestingly, when people get together, they often tell each other about their individual past. And one of the reasons why they do this is so that they might share a past. So they try to create a collective memory between the two of them of events that only one had experienced. Now, there are two aspects of couples remembering that I think are very interesting. As I've already said, a lot of time is spent remembering together, and it's unsurprising because memory strengthens social bonds. And so one of the main activities that couples engage in is remembering together, because remembering together makes them closer to each other. When couples remember together, they do several things, but two phenomena are particularly interesting. One is they enrich each other's individual memories by means of providing cues for each other. So they are each other's old photographs, if you see what I mean. So one of them might say, do you remember so-and-so? And by doing so, they prompt the other to remember something that maybe they had forgotten. So all couples enrich each other's individual memories. But they also come to a shared view of the past. So they construct memories in such a way that they end up agreeing with each other about past events. And one of the things that contributes to this phenomenon is called socially shared retrieval-induced forgetting. So when a person remembers an event and does so selectively, the aspects of that event that are not recalled will become harder to remember in future than other events that weren't recalled at all. So selective remembering of some aspects of one event makes other aspects of that same event harder to remember than things one had not considered at all. And this is true for the individual rememberer, but it's also induced in the audience because the audience remembers along with the individual who is talking about his or her memories. And so, because the audience, in this case the other member of the couple, rehearses memories together with the speaker, they too forget the aspects that are not retrieved. So because they too selectively retrieve information about a certain event, find other aspects not retrieved of that event harder to remember in future. In this way, both members of the couple will come to share a memory with certain aspects of it forgotten and others selected. Of course, all couples do not want to just remember together, they also want to forget together. And we can do this in many ways. One will be to destroy cues, or simply to neglect to mention something altogether so that we will become silent about it. Like couples and individuals, also communities remember. And communities too are defined by their memories. The memories that define communities are usually called collective memories. These are long-lasting shared memories that contribute to creating the identity of the community. And of course, by remembering these memories, one strengthens one's sense of belonging to that community. So one of the things that communities do is they scatter their environment with memorials that function as cues of collective memories, and so that by seeing, for instance, a statue of Nelson, somebody will come to remember Nelson, the role of Nelson in the definition of Great Britain, and by seeing Nelson, they'll come to strengthen their sense of belonging to Britishness and their sense of what Britishness means. And so collective memories define a community and its character. In the case of Englishness or Britishness, this might be memories of heroism during wars, a spirit of adventure in polar expeditions, or fair play and games of cricket. But of course, communities are not just defined by what they remember, they are also defined by what they do not remember. And not remembering, forgetting, is so important that one of the first things that is typically done when there is a regime change is that memorials of the past regime are deliberately suppressed, hence the toppling of Saddam's statues in Iraq. But silence is not just induced by deliberate suppression, but also by neglect. Think, for instance, of the arson of 18 Denmark Street in London in August 1980. This is the biggest arson, the biggest fire in terms of number of casualties in London after the Second World War. And yet it's completely neglected. No one really remembers that it happened. Probably not coincidentally, because the people who died were prostitutes or pimps or Londoners of Latin American descent were spending a night out in an unlicensed bar. And so, by suppressing or neglecting these things, Britishness is defined as not being the things they suppressed and the things they are neglected. Perhaps more insidiously, there is another form of mnemonic silence, which is the things that are forgotten by being selectively talked about. I've already mentioned socially shared retrieval-induced forgetting in the case of all couples, but this also works on community level. So the idea, as I said, is that events that are related to things that are recollected, but which are not themselves mentioned, become harder to remember than totally unrelated and also unmentioned events. This only happens if the audience is sympathetic to the speaker, probably because an audience that is sympathetic to a speaker rehearses together with the speaker the memories that the speaker brings explicitly to mind. So, Hamed Merabat, who was the police officer that first confronted the terrorists who were attacking the Charlie Hebdo office, would be easier to forget if we remember Charlie Hebdo and neglect to mention Hamed than if we didn't mention Charlie Hebdo at all. Of course, this retrieval-induced forgetting can be minimized in this case by simple addition. We could remember both Charlie Hebdo and Hamed Merabat. But this mere addition doesn't always work. So consider the following. Think of the role of Black Britishness in collective memories of Britain. What might come to mind is gang-related crime, or perhaps riots. So memories of Black British people as criminals. Or you might think of Stephen Lawrence, and therefore memories of Black British people as victims. Either way, it would seem that collective memories of Black British people are memories where Black British people are the problem, either because they are the criminal or because they are the victim of crime. Imagine being represented as a problem in the collective memory of your community. And here, remember that what socially shared retrieval-induced forgetting tells us is that if Black British comes to mind in this way, as criminal or as victim, this memory of Black Britishness will cause forgetting of other aspects of Black Britishness, which are related but unmentioned. And so the induced forgetting of Shirley Bassey, Lenny Henry, Oswald Boateng, the induced forgetting of other roles that British people have had in defining Britishness. So if the collective memory of Britishness only has images in it of Black British as criminal and as victim, because other aspects of Black Britishness are neglected and yet relevant, they will become harder to remember than if Black Britishness was not part of the collective memory at all. And here simple addition will not work. We do not want the collective memory of Britishness to include Black British people as criminals as well as fashion designers. We don't want to make criminality defining of what Black British is. So, what does that say about us, that we memorialized Cecil Rhodes, somebody who defended the primacy of the white British race? But do not memorialize Quena, who wrote about emancipation from slavery. Memory is not the same as memorializing. To memorialize, as I've tried to argue, is to make something part of one's collective memory, and to make that as part of the collective memory is to make that defining of what a certain society is and defining of what belonging to it is. And that's why we should perhaps stop memorializing roads, remember a piano, and of course remember roads, but remember both of them for what they stood for